Hill is a dancer who uses a wheelchair.
I love dance from a very young age, and so I knew that's what I wanted to do my whole life.
She was a senior in high school, just months away from graduation, when she was in a car accident that paralyzed her.
When I was sitting in the hospital bed, my dad walked in with a laptop and he showed me a wheelchair dancer on YouTube. I, watched the video and my wheels started turning and I was like, okay, that's cool. I would do that differently and that's cool. And that's where the idea of dancing, no matter what, whether I got back up or not, that was when the fire of dance really ignited with me. I moved to Los Angeles in 2014 with this dream of being a professional dancer in a wheelchair and just got way more inspired by everyone around me. That's, I feel like, when social media really started taking off and I started following all these other dancers. But when I started going to new choreographers that I followed, I also got turned down a lot and felt like people didn't see me for the same dancer as the person standing next to me. But I started to turn that hurt that I felt where I wasn't respected like every other dancer into passion and fuel to go back and make sure that that choreographer knew who I was.
But she quickly got to work building up a community of other young women dancers who used wheelchairs. She created the Rollettes dance team and started a convention bringing together girls and women in wheelchairs from around the world.
I started the Rollettes dance team purely because I just wanted friends. I want you guys to know that I know this is oh, we're all sisters now, but please know that anything you guys need, I'm here, I'm your biggest fan. I wanted to know of other girls with spinal cord injuries that were the same age and that were into the same things and that I could vibe with, being newly injured and not knowing what this body and this life was going to entail. It was super scary. And so I reached out to girls on social media. It's not that bad! And we started creating these videos on my iPhone and posting them and just having fun with it. And it purely started because we just wanted to see what we can do. And there were these dance challenges and we wanted to create them and no one else in a wheelchair was doing it. So we're like, why not? Why can't a person in a wheelchair dance and make cool videos? I don't see it, so let's create it. And I feel like being able to show the world what you can do through social media is so amazing because we're lucky that we have that type of voice now. But it's become this movement and this company and this team to empower women with disabilities to live boundlessly and shift perspective through dance. And that's the core of what we do and who we are. And it's so cool to see that there's these other girls that have that same passion and that same drive as I do. And we've kind of teamed up, It's just been really, really cool.
Hey everybody, my name is Madeline Delp and I am a social media influencer and former Miss Wheelchair USA. And today we're going to be talking about social media and disability, but specifically the role that social media plays in creating disability inclusion and disability rights. And it's so amazing the power that social media has given each and every one of us to change the world. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story trying to do that, but also give you guys tips on how you can do the same. So my journey started before social media was even a thing, to be honest. I was 10 years old and I really was kind of growing up in this bubble where I didn't have a lot of diversity in my life and I didn't know much about disability at all. My mom and I were driving home and we were in a car accident. We were hit by a truck. When I got to the hospital, I was in a coma for several weeks and woke up to the news that I would never walk again. I immediately started facing all kinds of obstacles. I mean, there were stairs everywhere at my house. So every single night I had to scoot up backwards up the stairs to get to my room. And then when I got to school, I started facing the exact same thing because there were so many stairs. And the principal called my mom and I into her office and she said, you know what, we're not bound by law to be accessible, so we think it'd be better if you found somewhere else to go. Then I had family members of mine go to my mom and tell her that they didn't feel comfortable being around me because my disability made them feel awkward. And I eventually became bold enough to compete in Miss Wheelchair North Carolina, a competition that I actually won. And then I went on to Miss Wheelchair USA and won that too. And so I was at this place where I was like, Madeline, you have to get over all your hiccups about social media and you have to use it to the fullest extent that you can to make the most of this title and reach people across the US and the world to share your experience as a title holder and your experience as a woman in a wheelchair. My big idea was that I was going to document a cross-country tour that would span over 3 months and 25 states, where I would do things that were fear chasers in almost every state. And my goal was to encourage people with disabilities and people without disabilities too, that you should question your assumptions about what you think you're capable of doing. And I did this through base jumping and skydiving and cave exploring and paragliding, but the real message was be courageous, be bold. And as I was becoming bold through social media and sharing this journey, it was like my followers were also learning to become bold with me. And I originally set out to motivate other people, but it was like we were motivating each other, and it started to become a community. So this led me to compete in Miss North Carolina USA, not Wheelchair North Carolina, but the walking North Carolina USA. And it was the most intimidating thing that I have ever done, because I was in this arena of women who were the symbol of perfection, right? And here I was, somebody who was broken and injured and not like everybody else. At least that's how I felt going on stage. The second year, I placed top 10, which had never been done before for a woman in a wheelchair in the entire Miss USA system. And because of this, my story went not only national, but international. And people were reading about this accomplishment all over the world. And after that, the next year, I placed top 5. I was actually 3rd in the competition. I was absolutely devastated. And it wasn't just for me, it was because I felt like I had let everybody down that I had been, working so hard to encourage. I, again, was just shocked by the reaction that I got, because people came to me and said, it wasn't about you winning or losing this whole time. It was about you having the strength to get up there and share your journey of doing something so out of the box and so scary and bold, and showing us that we can do the same, win or lose. It's really about the fact that you try. It's so easy to be fake on social media and try to pretend like your life is perfect, but that's not reality, and that doesn't connect with anybody. It's the stories where you share your difficulties and you share your pain and your challenges, where people can connect to you and relate to you and feel like they have something to hold on to. And it's not the easy stories that create change, it's the hard ones. It's the stories like when I told people I was denied access on an airplane, or I was denied access to a restaurant, that actually start to make change, and where people with disabilities can come together as a united force to change our society. And not just that, where we can help encourage little girls like me and people with visible and invisible disabilities everywhere, that they're not alone and that they can have the strength to stand up for themselves and fight and be courageous in their world and share their voice. So I hope this shows you that you too can have a voice on social media to create change in our world. And I look forward to sharing with you more strategies of how you can do that on the panel, and am so grateful for your time today.
My name is Rain Daniels. I'm 23 years old and I live in Buffalo, New York, and my disability is limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. So my journey starts when I was 6 years old. I was born with my disability, but I wasn't diagnosed until 6, and it didn't start really affecting me until I was about 13. And I did become wheelchair bound completely at around the age of 16 when I had a spinal fusion surgery. Having a disability growing up definitely has been a challenge, and it definitely has opened my eyes differently to seeing the world. I feel as though it's helped me be a little more humble and be able to kind of understand people a little bit better and understand, not everything is what it seems. Now I see the world as like, I'm not going to look at somebody and judge them just by looking at them, because you never know what somebody is going through. So I did end up graduating high school, and then after high school I actually went away to college, and I left New York and went to school in Pennsylvania, where I went to Edinburgh University. Edinburgh had this care program where literally you could stay on campus, and they had like their own caregivers that stayed in this little room or whatever. Like, they didn't live there, they just came and they had shifts and stuff. So there was always somebody on the clock. And I'm really glad, because I was able to have the most normal college experience. Like, I was able to go out to parties, I was out drinking, come back, go to the bathroom, go back out. All in all though, my college experience was amazing, and I definitely recommend, if you are able to go to college and dorm away from home, do it. It's so amazing. You have like a totally new type of found independence. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. Literally, I'm wheelchair bound, I moved out on my own, I'm living alone, I'm paying my own bills, I have 2 animals, I take care of them myself, I clean my own litter box. Like, I'd pay somebody to help me clean my turtle because I can't do it. I don't just let them suffer. Honestly, people telling me that I can't do something fuels me to want to do it so much more and harder and better. And I've developed that trait, I think, being disabled over all these years, because so many people will put you down, not only because I'm disabled, but just because if somebody sees you as a little lesser than them, they're going to try to put you down. So just don't let them. Because look at me, here I am, like I said, in my own apartment. I have my own van outside, I'm doing good, I'm independent, and I'm in my happiest element, in my happiest point of life I've ever been in, honestly. Like, I never thought that I would get to this point, not this quickly anyway, and I'm super glad and proud. And I also have a boyfriend. We are going on 3 years now. His name is Marcelo. So I actually am on TikTok and I'm on Instagram. I started on TikTok, but I mostly use Instagram, where I currently have 14.3K followers on there. When I started this, I had no, I guess you could say, goals as to getting big and as to really getting out there. The reason that I am doing social media is, one, to basically bring awareness to the public of disabilities and try to bring some normalcy to disabilities and the public. And I want to show, people with disabilities can be sexy, they can be funny, they could go out and about, do things just like everybody else can. We do go out to bars, we go out to comedy clubs, literally just normal type stuff like that. And I also go into, the harder things, the downfalls of having a disability, the hardships of it, the good things about it too. But really, majority of the time, I just use my platform, honestly, just being myself. Being able to talk to so many people around the world has brought me so much joy. I really love doing what I do so far this past year that I've done it. And I believe that my social media journey is just starting. And like I said, I can't wait to see where things go. And I really hope to, like I said, really make a difference one day.
Sometimes in life, maybe there's some dramatic left turn. A lot of my life in the few years before I got sick, going to grad school and getting married, all of it seems so rosy, but there's another side of life, the challenging piece. but that happens to everyone. It's helped me understand vulnerability through a different lens. You experience some sort of trauma that impacts you in a different way. Pieces of your identity are going to change.
They'll come back here to transition, and the race will culminate with a 10K run.
I was never much of an athlete growing up. I was like always the kid who was pretty slow at running, didn't love doing like the mile in gym class, but I slowly just got into it. The apartments I lived in were all pretty close to the East River, and so it was just really easy to like pick up a pair of running shoes and like go running on the East River. And then, you know, that turned into 5K, which turned into half marathon, which turned into a marathon. I think it was a good lesson for me, especially like just picking up endurance running of, hey, just because like you don't think you have natural talent at something, give it a shot and like persevere and push through. And I often found, you know, the first 3 miles were the hardest, and then after that it was just like rhythm for me.
Yeah, baby.
People don't realize how important your lumbar spine and your SI joints are until something goes wrong and you're like, oh, yeah, I just need a hot minute to like compose myself. This like part of your body that is like holding you together and like makes it possible for you to like walk and run and like do all these things. As I got a lot out of just learning about other people's stories, I became a little bit more comfortable sharing a bit of my own journey. In the summer of 2018, I got this bad virus that came out of nowhere. It was a few months after my wedding, was just enjoying the summer, and I figured it would go away in a few weeks. I noticed some really odd things happening to my body, a lot of like musculoskeletal pain that I'd never felt before, especially like around my hips, and other feelings like tingling, massive fatigue beyond anything I'd ever experienced. I was having these weird spasms and my nervous system was just kind of clearly out of control. And I said to my doctor, like, I don't really know much about autoimmune diseases, but I feel like my body is attacking itself. I was under the impression that if something's wrong, you go to a doctor, they tell you what it is, and then it gets fixed. And so it didn't cross my mind that what I was experiencing wasn't just one thing, that it was actually multiple conditions. And as we started to identify and treat, you know, one by one, the tingliness, the fatigue, like some of that dissipated due to other treatments. But what really remained was just the super intense pain around my hips and my spine that I just couldn't shake off no matter how much I worked out or whether I got a massage or, you know, whether or not I ate gluten. It just got to a point where I had to take a step back and realize you have to keep asking questions. You have to keep pushing on this because something just feels off. A few months after I started to see a rheumatologist, and after going for an MRI that winter, my doctor confirmed based on what she saw that I had AS. AS is an inflammatory autoimmune condition in which your body attacks the spine, SI joints, your hips, and sometimes other parts of your body. You know, for me, when it gets really bad, it can go like up my neck into like my jaw and my head even. It has a genetic component, but can be triggered by an environmental event, which was the case for me. I probably had some very minor form of it, and then this virus thing happened and blew it all up. In terms of what AS feels like, it's pain 100% of the time, which probably sounds really daunting to people who don't live with chronic pain. It's always there, and it's just a matter of how much it's there or like where it's impacting me the most. While I, you know, have like normal muscle strength, it definitely has a huge impact on like mobility, being able to, you know, walk and run, even though I'm just as like strong as I was before. I have definitely had moments of anger. I definitely spent, you know, weeks and months grieving my former body and being like, damn, you had it good. Like, you didn't even know you had it so good. And I got to a point where I realized, like, you have a progressive disease and you're not going to be able to, like, be a distance runner ever again. I've gotten into triathlon, but, like, in my racing chair, and have just as much fun, just being able to run, just doing it in a different way.
Get out there, we'll catch you at the end.
Feeling those moments where you're in like a little bit of a speed vortex, the moments where I was just like, tucked in on the bike or in my chair, everything like racing past me, cheering, just sensory overload, but like in the best way.
In retrospect, I'm glad that I allowed myself to have that anger, that grief. It's a challenging diagnosis, but it's not, a life-ending diagnosis, and there's still so much joy and accomplishment that you can have with this condition.
Hi everyone, my name's Chelsie. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Leeds in England. I'm a social media influencer and also a model. My condition is called spinal muscular atrophy, type 2. That means I use an electric wheelchair 24/7. I'm also on a ventilator 24/7. And as I get older, my muscles get weaker. On my social media platforms, I talk about fashion, community, and also talk about disability and teach people how to be a good ally to the disabled community. I get a lot of negative comments on my videos, mainly because I am just disabled. Some people think it's really strange to see like a young, fashionable disabled person just outliving their life, when honestly, that's like the truth for a lot of people. My main goal is to educate able people into understanding disabled people and the struggles we go through, which is basically facing ableism each and every day. So I started taking my Instagram seriously probably like 4 or 5 years ago. So I basically started travelling to London, I started documenting what I was doing, like going to YouTube conventions, from beauty conventions. And then started taking like pictures of my outfits and tagging brands in what I was wearing. And eventually my platform started to grow. I then started my TikTok beginning of the pandemic, just like everybody else did. I was so bored during lockdown, so just started posting funny videos of myself, like lip singing different songs, and that eventually picked up really quickly. The more my TikTok grew, the more people wanted to know about my condition and things. Even though I don't talk about my condition or anything, I do try and educate people on what it's like to be disabled, to talk about the issues we go through, like ableism and infantilization, and how there's a lot of lack of access to get into buildings and things, and that's a lot of the struggles that we go through. My main goal is to have my own fashion industry or fashion business in the future that is solely run by disabled and neurodivergent people, to give them more representation and to get them into work. Because a lot of businesses don't want to make their jobs and work accessible, So that means a lot of disabled people are unable to work, because that's a huge problem that's happening right now.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. So we wanted to start with just talking about getting started, being an influencer and being involved in social media. Just talk about what you felt like, what drove you to want to share your story. And you just jump in one by one whenever you're ready to start talking.
I don't mind jumping in. I want to apologize at the beginning. I am losing my voice, so hopefully you guys can hear me. But as you may have seen in my video, I definitely never expected to have any sort of social media presence whatsoever. I was honestly so scared to share my story because I didn't think anybody would be interested in it, that people would, think that disability was something that they could ever relate to. So when I finally stepped out and started sharing my story and people were so responsive to it and wanted to know more, I was shocked. And so that led me to just keep sharing. And then, right before my eyes, people were really starting to, say how much it meant to be able to know that somebody else was going through the same thing. And so it taught me how people don't relate to a perfect life. They relate to pain, they relate to the issues that you face, and that when you share those, how powerful it can be toward changing somebody else's life. So that's kind of what led to my beginning.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. When I first started just social media is kind of when Instagram was more newer, I guess you could say. And I started because I was really inspired by the dance community, and I was seeing these really cool concept videos, and I was like, I want to be in them. And I just moved to LA, and I was like, nobody's inviting me to be in it, so whatever, I'm gonna create my own. And I just started doing these cool concept videos, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And I just started because I wanted to show people that I could dance too, just like everyone else. And I feel like for so long I've always loved this creative side that I never got to share it or have an outlet to. And so I just got really passionate about sharing just different things and kind of letting people see me and my disability in a different way. So that's kind of how I started. And it just kind of, I guess, a ripple effect after that with everything I've been involved with. So it's been really fun, but I definitely started just because I wanted to show people that you can dance too with the disability, and you don't have to dance like everyone else, and it's just as cool. So that was my passion.
I'll jump in and build off of Chelsie. Similarly to both Chelsie and Madeline, I think my experience was very much an organic one. After my diagnosis in 2019, I wanted to share kind of my narrative on my own terms. I benefited a ton from others on social media at the time who I didn't even necessarily know, but just seeing particularly other women mobility aid users out there, being confident. And at the same time, I felt like I didn't quite see anyone just like me, like my permutation between the career that I have in the business world and some of my, rookie interest in adaptive sports at the time. And then I think there was a big mindset shift that I had. Some of you might know her, Mama Cox, the model who passed away a few years back. She was an amazing advocate, also an amputee, an athlete, a businesswoman. And when she passed away, it sort of hit me you can't expect other people to just, to be the thing that you want to be and just have that out there, right? If there's some footprint you want to leave on the world, if you want to put yourself out there on social media, have a presence, then do it yourself. And I think from there, again, it continued to be really organic. Getting signed with a modeling agency was also a complete kind of accident. It literally happened through Instagram. My agent at the time was like, "Hey, you're an activist in New York, and we want to meet you. Would you ever consider being a model?" And I was like, "I'm a 33-year-old management consultant. That's random. I'm an MBA, but sure, sign me up." And it's been a really fun
and humbling, I think, journey just to, to kind of be on this path and to learn from so many others like the folks on this panel. Yeah.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I don't really remember when I fell into being an influencer. I just sort of started posting my outfit pictures on the internet, specifically on Instagram. I was vlogging at the time as well. Got on YouTube and posting myself going to conventions and things in London. And my social media platform just started to grow on Instagram. And then I'm pretty sure it's like when lockdown happened, I joined TikTok and started posting on there. Again, just silly videos like lip syncing to my favourite songs. And my TikTok picked up very, very quickly. And then the more followers you got, the more disability questions you get asked, like, what's your condition? Where have you got a mask on? All that sort of stuff. So that's when I started talking about disability across TikTok and Instagram. And a lot of people really liked what I had to say and they liked my stories. And he just picked up from there, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is Jerron. Similarly, I think that I began to think about my posting as a way to share what I do on the daily. So the way that my dance career has evolved is largely telling stories that are coming from a disability aesthetic and a disability like history and the legacies of like these unknown stories and narratives of our like collective people. And so I just really got excited about like just sharing like how our bodies and how our kind of our context could be the teaching, right? So that it's through the context of dance or the context of an ad that you get a kind of sense of who you are and what people need to know about what disability life is. And so I always thought it was always contextual, and that was the way that I felt very confident, or at least not scared to like think about this kind of influencing moment. It was really always about something that was practical to me and something I could share authentically. And that's how I'm always moving through all of this. I mean, everyone on this panel has amazing spheres of influence, and I think that we all come at it authentically, which is really awesome.
So my name's Rain. I actually just started the social media stuff kind of the same way you guys did. I literally just hopped on the trend and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to share my story. I have a lot of experiences I feel like people could relate to. And I feel like, this is the perfect time to do it because I don't remember who said it, but one of you guys said, social media is like where it's at right now to kind of like get things out there, So I kind of agree with that. And I started also on TikTok, but my TikTok kind of was like taken off, but then I also switched to Instagram, and that's where my platform really took off. And Instagram is where I love to like kind of just be very like authentic, like you were saying, Jerron, and just kind of like put authenticity and the real world out there, and kind of just show the world like, being disabled, you could still be, have a great life, be out there, be happy. And that's kind of just my platform. I kind of just do that, kind of just, let the world know that even though you are disabled, we still want to be treated the same. We still want to do everything that everybody else does, and we can. And that's kind of what I want to let the world know. And that's what I do.
Okay. And then how do you think people with disabilities are perceived online? And what's been the biggest challenge you faced with sharing your story?
So honestly, I feel like that is a very 50-50 type question, because honestly, people with disabilities are portrayed as like, what is it called? Like inspiration type, like that's great and all, but I feel like there is inspiration in a good way and in a bad way, if you like kind of understand that. So like I feel like on the internet, people could post
Oh, let me give an example. I don't know if you guys know Alex, she's on TikTok, but somebody actually took one of her videos and like did it like the disabled like inspirational type like they just made it not what she was trying to portray, I guess. And like I feel like that is something that people do. They try to like take people's stories and kind of not understand it. And I want people to like understand disabilities, so I feel like social media, that's a great way as well to portray the truths and understandings of disabilities. So I feel like that's a way, social media is a great way to understand, disabilities in general.
I completely agree. I mean, I think, for me, I feel like it's like giving the mic back to us. We finally have the power for people to see what we actually want them to see. And I feel honored to be on this platform with you guys right now because you guys are all so amazing in so many different ways. So I don't know, I just feel like social media has given like us all the opportunity to educate people on our personal lives and how we all live so differently. And our own kind of normal, whatever that means these days. But I just think it's really cool. And I think that I've faced a lot of like that whole like inspirational thing before. And I think if we just change the narrative to showing people like how we live our lives, I think it's just really cool because I don't know how Hillary lives her life. I don't know how any of you guys live your life until I see it. And I think it's just really cool to be able to educate, even other people in the disability community. I've learned so much from so many of you guys. But yeah, I just want to say that I think it's really cool to be able to like just hand the mic back to us and be like, okay, now I'm going to show how I transfer. Now I'm going to show how I go grocery shopping. I just think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like the way we tell our story through content creation is the most realistic because there's no other way to really tell it. I feel like Hollywood and the media, TVs and film, the stories are never directed by people like us, so it's never authentic. So when people start watching shows and films that have like inspiration porn stories, that's what I think our lives are like. And then that just gets fed through. Then our voices get like muted and silenced. Does that make sense? So yeah, I feel like our way is the most authentic way for people to learn. Because I always tell people like the best way to learn about disability is through disabled content creators because it comes straight from the source. I don't go to like second or third hand sources because it's not always the most reliable. So I'm always like recommending my friends and like other people that I follow. Some people have like the best education.
Yeah, you guys are all hitting the nail on the head exactly. I think it's really easy for people to put people with disabilities in a box and in something that they can accept and understand because it's foreign to a lot of people, but it's kind of like fallen on us to say, hey, we're not all the same. It's not, all one way. We're all very different. We all have very different experiences. And it's not sad. Like we're not here sitting around sad that we're in chairs or disabled. Like we live full, happy lives and can do amazing things. And I think the biggest challenge for me was finding my own acceptance, finding my own, like respecting myself that, hey, yeah, you can share your story and you can be loud and proud with it and, redefine what the world thinks of you. And I think seeing like all of you guys do that in such a bold way, like inspires me and we inspire each other to keep, being, like I said, loud and proud and sharing our stories and redefining the narrative and breaking out of the disability box that a lot of times we get put in.
All right. And what are some of the channels? I know some of you already mentioned before, but what channels have you seen as the most effective or getting the most traction with your followers?
I was just gonna say I feel like that's so hard because TikTok and Instagram, you're talking about like the two different TikTok and Instagram, right?
Yes, like your platforms.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So I feel like that's so hard because it's two completely different like audiences, right? Like TikTok is so new, so raw. Instagram is like this polished, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's so different. TikTok, I feel like you literally, if literally any video can just like pop off, right? Like your video can go on the explore page, unlike Instagram. Instagram, it's shown to your followers and you have to be following them, and they're kind of changing things a little bit. But I feel like that's really hard because some videos I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of this video, it's so fun, and then I'm like, why is there like just a few hundred like views? This is so weird, and then I put on Instagram and I'm like, okay, it did really well, like, or vice versa. So I feel like that's really hard. But I personally really like TikTok more just because you get to be so much more raw, and like there's fun like dances to do on there, and you can like play around with the transitions. And I feel like Instagram is like a little bit more like, I don't know, it's a little intimidating sometimes, even for me now. I'm like, I don't know, I feel like it needs to look good. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. TikTok, to educate people on TikTok, or to get people to see things, you get like the audience is so much bigger, but that's not always necessarily great because then things get misinterpreted because it's not always your audience that's watching you. On Instagram, people follow you so they know what to expect. So a lot of your content and captions don't get taken out of context. So it's really hit and miss because obviously on TikTok you get more views, but on Instagram it's more helpful, if that makes sense.
I was a total Instagram girl. I did not think that I would like TikTok. And then I tried it and I was like, oh, this is a lot more fun. Because like Chelsie said, you just get to be raw and real. And like, I remember the first video that went viral for me. It was a video of my boyfriend carrying me onto a roller coaster. And when I like did it, I was like, this isn't gonna do well. It's gonna flop. Like, it's so basic. And then it got millions of views overnight. People were like, this is so cool. And I'm like, this is like my normal everyday life, but it kind of gives you a chance to show something that you might think is really basic, but that other people are just shocked by because they don't get to see that like side of life. So that's why I'm kind of like leading TikTok right now. But I mean, they're both great platforms to get your voice out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm actually, this is my secret sin. I'm not on TikTok right now at all. But I think in terms of like how I see other friends using it, like the way in which the information is disseminated, like, and easily, like in a way that, there's like it's like educative in a really awesome way because it's through it's through fun and engaging ways. And so yeah, I would say that in terms of the widespread ubiquity you can get through TikTok, like that's a boon. It's really nice to see folks utilize it that way.
I totally agree with you guys. I feel like TikTok is definitely like the platform for the fun, silly, side of things. I definitely use my TikTok for like the silly fun of things, and I use my Instagram for like the more professional things, like I definitely feel like I said my Instagram does a lot better. But then like what Chelsie was talking about, like the fun dance videos, I've done a couple of like the dance trends myself. Like I'm not the best dancer, but it's like cute because when I do them, they do like pop off because people do like seeing that, they like seeing, people, even though we do things a little differently, they like seeing that. They like people doing what they do normally and expressing that and letting it out there. So I definitely was nervous to do it, but the first time I did it and it went off, I was like, you know what, cool, that's fun. But then, like I said, Instagram, I feel like that's the more like professionally, keep that, more well, it could be fun too, but I feel like I just use that for like everyday life. I post on my story every day there where people just kind of see like where I'm at in life, and TikTok is more so mine, just like that's what I'm doing. I'm bored, chilling. But yeah.
All right. Hi everyone. I'm Avery. So grateful to have you guys. Hi, Jerron. So grateful to have you guys here today. Love
all your stories and following you, and yeah. So the next question is, you all have such wide avenues of areas of expertise, from dance to modeling, pageantry, fitness, Madeline, the music video, which was so cool. Was your focus sought out right away, showcasing that from the start? Like, did you fall into that, the topic and titles you now hold?
I can jump in. So I think it's evolved kind of as my just passions and perspectives have changed over time, like even within just the past few years as I've gotten more active on social media. I think some elements have been consistent, just like your values your deep core values might be consistent over time, but your individual experiences, right, in jobs and where you live, like those things can change. So I think about that as the same way. And I think at the core, I've always been passionate about kind of taking an intersectional lens. I'm also Filipino American. I love that, I love being a leader in the business world as well, a social justice perspective, all of that. I've always been really passionate about showcasing particularly different mobility aids, because I have a whole bunch of them, and showing that can be fun and stylish and professional, and breaking some of those archetypes in our society. But there are other pieces that have evolved more, right? So in my adaptive fitness journey, like I started out posting like pictures of, a lot of content like hiking on my crutches, which, typically people don't see all the time. People don't think about people who need forearm crutches to walk as like hiking up mountains. But then as I got more into wheelchair racing and triathlon, right, like I went more in that direction. And then I think some of the newer areas have been style, particularly indie style, which I feel like isn't always super represented within the adaptive fashion world, especially as I got into modeling and started getting in touch with like my own kind of unique sense of fashion. I wanted to just showcase that more. And also, I think part of this is like what partnerships kind of come to you, right? Like what organically evolves in terms of like what people and other brands out there kind of want to see. And then I think the last piece for me, so I moved to a 200-year-old farmhouse in upstate New York during the pandemic from Brooklyn. So like definitely a stereotype of my generation for sure. But I've gotten really into like, a lot of the kind of like Hudson Valley lifestyle things, right? I just started a garden this past month, and I love showcasing like farm fresh eating and things like that, right? So, I think just allowing myself to evolve that content in the same ways that I'm learning and growing and continuing to change. Yeah.
Well, I love that, Hillary, because it's like our roles based off of our experiences change and evolve, but I think it's rooted mostly in the perspective of talent and the perspective of like your creative energy and like having a perspective, and that your perspective like goes across the disciplines. So like, for example, I was a part of a physically integrated dance company for 8 years and learned how to dance professionally on the job. And had no sense of a tendu before I started in dance. I didn't know what to play with, and so from there though, now I'm the lead choreographer for an opera upcoming, and then that will lead on to like different kinds of creative direction for movement, for videos, and for different kinds of brands. The Cerebral Palsy Foundation and I are partnering, so there's like a bunch of different things that come through that. But I think that it just stems from like the core beginning of like how movement, how I circulated through movement, and how that dips into different disciplines. Similarly with modeling, like the facile way to like move for the camera is like rooted in my ability in dance. So it's like those tasks and those talents transfer naturally, and it feels like you can, based off of your interests and your talents, like they have place in different areas of industry.
So one of the things I'm known for is pageantry, and that actually is the reason that I started using social media in the first place, because I realized, like, okay, if you're gonna represent a title, like, you have to be on social media and be present. And so when I won Miss Wheelchair USA, I also realized, like, this is a great business opportunity too. If you want to get funded to travel and speak and, go around the United States, then you have to be able to leverage social media in order to get that financial support. So my first big, I guess, partnership was with several companies in order to do a 3-month cross-country trip to speak in over 25 states around the US. So I saw really quickly how powerful it can be to not just get money, but to use that to, like, use your voice all over the world, all over the US, all over the world, and really just increase the amount of prospects you have. But then after pageantry, I definitely, like you guys were saying, perspectives change, your roles change, and so you just grow with it. And I think it's been cool over the years to show how I've grown through social media and really become really a different person through the years of sharing my journey.
I completely agree. I started social media in dance, and I feel like maybe 2020 is when I started branching out and doing other types of things. And I think that was because of TikTok. So I was bored in my house and I was like, well, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm inspired by this video. I want to recreate this. Oh, how cool. And I couldn't go out and do all the concept videos like I was. So I feel like it's nice to start out in a niche. If you're just starting out, it's really nice to, like, do what you're passionate about. And I always tell everyone, like, if you're passionate about it, someone else is going to be passionate about it too, and other people are going to be interested. So start with that. And then if you branch off into the next thing and then the next thing, like, you just evolve. And so I completely agree with all of you guys. Like, you just evolve, and we're not going to be the same person we were 6 years ago, who we are now. And from 6 years, next, it's going to be something completely different. And your followers and the people that, like, love you and are consistent with you, they're going to grow with you as well. So I think, like, start with one thing and then see where that goes. And we just all evolve into different people.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like I said, I started social media super, like, not even that long, but I think it's been a year now, like, just to this day or a couple of days ago, honestly. But I've always been, like, a disabled activist. I've always been, like, always wanting to get my voice out there. Like, I used to go to school, but I was going to school for social work. So I've always wanted to, just be a voice for somebody, be that voice that nobody, or that person can't be, because there's some people who just, they don't have that voice, or they don't know how to use their voice in a way that, they want to express. So I've always wanted to be that person for somebody. So like I said, when I came on social media and that blew up, I was like, wow, this is what I want to do and what I'm meant to do. So
yes, as I mentioned, I started on Instagram just posting my outfit pictures, because just like what I was doing, going on trips and things. And then I ended up another disabled creator that I follow. I saw she was joined to a modeling agency, so I just applied to them just for fun. Didn't think I'd get in, and I eventually did. I'm not with them now, but when I was, I had, like, modeling jobs with Kurt Geiger. I was got to be, and it was honestly, like, so much fun. So I really hope we get, like, more of those opportunities in the future. And then my social media, I worked with, like, different brands online, like Love Honey and Virgin and, like, a Hot Octopus and stuff like that. And it's just honestly so much fun. So I'm hoping, like, that keeps on going.
Great. So what was your digital debut like? Was it what you expected, better or worse, still growing or changing?
It's always changing, but it was actually a lot more than I expected because I was like, I don't think anybody's going to like this, but they did. And they reacted pretty positively when it came out, when I started my channels. I think the key is that you have to be willing to change and grow, because if you stay the same, you're just not going to be able to have the sort of traction. You have to be like continuously practicing your skills and learning new things. And I mean, that's a skill for life, but especially for social media.
I'll jump in. So when I started using Instagram after my diagnosis, showing different pictures of me with my crutches or with my, wheelchair, I felt like, especially for that first year, like every time I made a post like that, it felt like I was about to jump off a cliff. Like I felt like nervous and like the pit of my stomach. And I was like, I'm just going to post this and then I'm not going to look at it for a while. And I thought that I would like lose friends. Like I was like, people are going to think that I've like changed. I don't know. Like, I don't know how this is going to jive. Like people are going to think I'm, weird for getting more active on social media. Like, I'm just not really sure. And I was just really shocked and moved that so many people within my extended network just like, I guess, reached out to me and, thanked me for being open about my experiences and what I was going through. And then so many people who I'd never met before, reached out to me too. And I was like, this is not what I expected at all. And so, I think some of this discovery, right, as everyone has shared, it has a bit of serendipity to it, has a bent of, accidentality to it, right? But there's something so powerful about just like going out there unapologetically with who you are authentically and just seeing what happens.
I completely agree with Hillary. I mean, I remember I was making a few concept videos. It was maybe 2014. And I got a group of able bodies together and I was like, let's go dance on Hollywood Boulevard. Like, I want to create a cool concept video. And literally like 3 days later after I posted it, it went viral and like a bunch of news stations picked it up. So I guess that was like, I guess you could call it a debut. I don't know. But I was like, oh, wow. I was so shocked that people actually really liked it. So that's kind of what gave me, I think, the confidence to, when you try something new, you're always nervous to do it, right? Like you're always like, oh, like, are people going to make fun of me? Or my friends, I thought my friends back home were gonna be like, who does she think she is? Like, and so I was like, oh, I was so nervous. And then it like, everyone liked it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, this is cool. Okay. And then it just gave me that confidence. So I would definitely say if you guys are passionate about something, try it, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. A lot of people will support you in it because people just want to see you succeed. So yeah, I think that mine was that one concept video that kind of kicked it off, not only for my social media, but just also like my confidence too.
My Instagram debut is not that exciting. I literally started it in high school, like everybody else my age. So nobody was that bothered. But with my TikTok, as I mentioned, I started it in lockdown. My little sister, who's 12, she was already on TikTok, just posting funny videos and stuff. So I jumped on it and just did the same thing. And then I woke up the next morning and I was getting like thousands of followers. And I was like, whoa, that's very different to Instagram. Like, I don't get that many followers. And I just kept posting and posting. And then I had my first viral video was a trending video about relationships. So I did it about me and my boyfriend, who's also got a disability. And that went viral instantly. I came home and I was getting thousands of followers like every second. Because the video's got like 25 million views or something stupid. But yeah, that was honestly insane. So I think that's when my TikTok proper took off. And I got like 100,000 followers like a day, which was crazy. But yeah.
So, next question. Do you find yourself competing with other people with disabilities in the digital spotlight, or do you find the space supportive and inclusive of one another?
I don't really feel like anybody's really competing with anybody. I feel like we all have different voices and we all have different like passions in life. And I truly feel like this world is big. There's room for everyone. And so if people are feeling like, oh, well, someone's already doing that, like they have that covered, nobody does it like you, like nobody does makeup like you, nobody dresses like you. And I think I'm so inspired by our community right now with the fashion industry. Like the fact that like there's so many amazing fashionistas out there that are dressing. I'm like, dang, I gotta step my game up. Like I feel like I'm just getting more and more inspired by the community. And I truly feel like there's room for everyone. Like all of you guys listening, like everyone that is passionate about something, like just do it, because no one's going to do it like you, and nobody can be, Shelby or Hillary or me. Like there's only one of us. And so I just say like, I don't think there's any competition. I think people get really intimidated thinking that that spot is already taken when it's really not. So just
building on Chelsie, I think, and I'm glad you mentioned that, like that sense of internalized almost, kind of tokenism, right? And it could apply to any of the isms, right? When we think about internalized ableism, internalized racism, misogyny, et cetera, right? This notion of if you're in a marginalized group, you have to compete for a finite amount of space because of the nature of that marginalization, right? And to take a step back, it's like, there's so many like what I would say like typical, right? Like able-bodied, like, traditional like fashion influencers out there, right? And no one's like, oh my God, there's so many of them. I mean, whatever, I kind of think that personally, but like, that's not a popular opinion. Everyone's like, wow, I want to follow all of them, right? And it's like, sometimes even like within modeling work, right? It's like, okay, they're casting this one, this one disabled role or whatever, but like, there's room to make the pie bigger for everyone, right? And I think, yeah, the more of us there are, right, living authentically, showing all of those unique intersections and ways of moving and ways of being that make each of us individual, like the more room and space there will be in this world for those, authentic, not inspiration porn type stories to be out there.
I don't think I could word it better, Hillary. That was a great description. I really feel like this group is such an inclusive, supportive group compared to a lot of the ones that are out there. But I mean, it's different for each person, right? You have to remember, comparison is the thief of joy. So each time you get on social media and you look at somebody and you think, oh, they have more followers, they have more likes, they're prettier, they have more money, whatever, you're putting these ideas in your head that you're not good enough. And you have to make sure you are putting thoughts in your mind that I am enough, and that my voice, my uniqueness is special, and that I can offer something in this world. So I might have to wrap this up, but just remember that when you get on social media, use it to find creativity and inspiration instead of a source of comparison and just feeling like you aren't enough.
I was going to piggyback off what you just said, because I'm going to say both to the question, because I do find myself comparing my numbers to my friends, which isn't healthy. But then the community is also so supportive that it's just like, it's not really worth comparing yourself. Like as a black disabled woman, I know that I'm not going to get the same opportunities as a lot of other people that are in the space. So I do compare a lot of the jobs my friends have and their numbers to mine. But also everybody's just so lovely. So I'm not doing it like a malicious way. It's just like a mental thing. So no, that makes sense.
Well, I often think about this too, Shelby, in terms of like, what's the difference about like what it means to be a disabled creator, right? And like what principles are we going to enact that would subvert all the industries? Because at the end of the day, it's like this is why inspiration inspiration stories do kind of permeate because people want a kind of story and they want us to just kind of regurgitate what industries do. But because of our identities, like our principles have to be different, and we have to say like interdependence and coalition building and sharing, and not just having scarcity minds are like the fundamentals for why disability creators will change the world, or why they'll introduce a new kind of perspective about what the world needs. And so we just have to keep that in our minds as we're creating, because so yes, the content will be creative, but then even our paradigm around why we create, to increase our collective movement, and even definitely because of the pandemic, readjust other people's understanding of disability as something that is like entirely scary, or entirely out of the realm of their imagination, but something that has tentacles and entryways for them too. So yeah, we have to think about this differently from the top down.
Yeah,
we saw that, Chelsie. We saw that little kiss. Okay, yes.
Hey Jay, what's up?
He brought me ice cream. Sorry.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
What's up?
We're in Mexico. Sorry.
But I completely agree with you all. Honestly, you guys said it all perfectly, so I don't have much to say. But I just wanted to add on, I honestly don't think that it is a bad thing when we do look on other people's, stories or reels or TikToks or whatever the reason is that you're doing it. It may not even be in a bad way. It could be in like a good way, where you're looking at it and you're like, dang, like they did that really good. Like that gives me like, I want to do that too. Like, So I also think that's a great idea when people look at other content, because it does inspire you to do your own content or recreate it in your own way.
So next question.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm back. I don't know what happened.
It's okay.
That was so weird. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. We're also gonna spotlight you. Okay. What types of events or activities would you encourage people with disabilities to attend and put on their radar to participate in to up their social media game?
I can jump in here. So in thinking about the question, I wouldn't attend any event just for the sake of upping your social media game. Rather, I would think about it as, what are the types of events or spaces that you want to be in that resonate with your interests or things you're curious about, or people you authentically just want to get to know, even if it feels scary at first, right? So, so Chelsie and I met through, initially we met through an event that I organized for the Disability Network at my company, which I lead for our organization. And then Chelsie kind of got me involved in her organization, Rollettes Experience, right? And I've been doing that for the past few years, but I remember at first being like, oh my gosh, like Chelsie reached out to me to work together. Like, this is different. Like, I'm not a dancer, like what, but I think if you're like, wow, like this community or this event or this space has a lot of energy, right? These are people who, I want to learn from, and I'm really excited to get to know and to contribute back to, then like, those are the places where you want to be. And of course, content like authentically and organically is gonna come out of that. And so for me, I think it's been the races that I've done. I love the disability starting lines at races, because meeting other wheelchair racers and disabled runners is just the best feeling in the world. But whatever that passion is for you, whether that's advocacy, fitness, fashion, it could really be anything. I think gravitating towards those spaces. And then to build on that, I think not just thinking about the types of events that you'd want to attend as a participant, right? But ultimately, you know, how can you potentially play a leadership role, right? Or maybe create a space if one doesn't exist for the thing that you're uniquely really excited about, as there's so much just opportunity. There's so much like white space out there for you to make your mark on.
I think that's a mic drop right there, but that was well said, Hillary. Mic drop.
Love ya. Love you, Chels.
That was really good. I completely agree.
All right, we'll see if I can get through this answer. But one thing that's been really good for me personally is trade shows, like disability trade shows or durable medical equipment trade shows. So, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I actually, for like the first one I went to, I was terrified to go to because I had never driven more than like an hour and a half by myself. And it was 6 hours away. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it and go alone and we'll see how it goes. Well, I went and I met all these people and was like, okay, I mean, that was cool, but I don't know if it's really going to pay off. Well, I ended up making a connection with a car company that I work with, Brownability. And because of that connection, I've been able to drive an SUV with them for the past 4 years. So that they lease to me. So it's like, you just never know who you're going to meet and how that can pay off. And especially in like the disability service or equipment market, like you can meet people who can help you build your brand, help you use certain like equipment or products that, you know, will help elevate your life in ways you never expected.
Yeah, different way that I found Casey's like growing platforms. He's always just collaborating with like other disabled people, whether it's in real life or collaborating virtually. So I've got a lot of friends I've got obviously things in common with. I will do virtual collaborations around that. Like I've just done like a fairy photo shoot with a few of my disabled friends. So we're all going to be posting our fairy pictures throughout Disability Pride Month, which I think is really cool. And then also just as a fashion creator, I obviously post fashion content. So I end up tagging brands in my pictures, and then occasionally a brand will repost your pictures and then you get more followers. Yeah, that's how I think it's one of the two easiest ways, I think, to grow like really quickly. Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite trend on social media? Whether it be like right now or in the past?
I've always loved the disabled and cute, like, you know, hashtag. Like, I think it's always fun to dip into every once in a while. Like, it could be, you know, when it was hot, but then it's like whenever you're just feeling yourself, like hashtag disabled and cute today.
I love that. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen that one yet, and I'm gonna go look at it because I love that so much. I think my favorite trend, I think it's just any of the dance ones. Like my favorite trends, I definitely think were like 2020, 2021, where everyone was like on TikTok and just doing whatever they wanted. But I would have to say the dance trends are really fun. I like being able to adapt them and make them my own. So yeah.
I really enjoyed the silhouette. I think it's called the silhouette challenge. With like the red Snapchat filter that people were using, is like quite sexy. And a lot of my disabled friends were doing it. And I did it in my ceiling hoist, like hung from the ceiling hoist. I made it really sexy. And that did really well. That was one of my favourite trends.
I actually agree with you on that one because I did that trend and I felt hella sexy doing that one too.
I did not try that and I saw it and I really wanted to. So now I want to go back and can we like recreate that? Can we do it again?
Bring it back. Yeah.
Let's bring it back.
I'll do it too. So we'll like all do it at the same time.
All right, let's talk a little bit about disability stereotypes and educating others. How do you go about carrying that burden of educating viewers about those who are different?
Okay, so I can start this one if you guys want because I'm huge on this. This is one of my biggest pet peeves is when people like use either like disability stereotypes or in general just are ignorant towards disabilities. So like I don't know if this is actually like considered a stereotype, but you guys know how frustrating it is when people like park in the handicap spots and stuff. So like I just recently had one of these issues where I posted on my story. I was like, you know, this guy, he wasn't even parked in just the handicap spot. He was sideways in the slashes and the handicap. So like that itself is not even just a stereotype, but just like I said, ignorance, and not even towards the disabled community, just everybody in general. So like stuff like that, I'm on top of stuff like that. So that would be something that I'd be like, nope.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot on my platforms, especially like disability and sexuality. So I love like taking a TikTok sound that's trending and then turning it into educating people about disability and sex. And obviously, disability and sex is a taboo subject. So a lot of able people think it's really cringy and they don't like it. But the videos always do really well because people want to find out more. So I think it's just a really good way to like educate people, but make it entertaining.
Yeah, real quick, I'm gonna hop on that I agree with that. My platform is also all about how you could be disabled and sexy, because I honestly feel like the same way. Like I don't understand why people automatically like think disabled and non-sexy. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So I agree 100% with that one.
I think over the years, my like perspective has changed, that it's not as much like a burden to change stereotypes. It's a privilege. Like we get to do things that are super out of the box and show people that their like preconceptions are false. Like one of them is like people think that if you use a wheelchair, you have like a gray minivan that you get it like that's beat up, you know. I drive a SUV that I have wrapped completely pink. And so like when I'm driving around, it's like, hey, you know, here I am, like, let's break these ideas that we have to be quiet and, you know, non bold, like just be bold with it. And I think people are really responding positively to that more recently, of appreciating us being like, hey, let's show you how we're doing things differently.
Yeah, building off of the notion of breaking archetypes, I think just being an ambulatory wheelchair user, and on social media, like some of my content is in a chair, some of it I have my crutches, some of it I'm just, you know, solo. And I think in our society, right, because of the images and stories we see on TV and in movies, right, the assumption is, oh, 100% of people who use wheelchairs can't walk at all, right, which is not true. And so I think just putting that out there and putting that out there unapologetically and showcasing that just because you have some ability to walk doesn't mean you should all the time. And like, that's okay.
Well, as someone who's disabled without any assistive devices, there's another kind of quality of showcasing my disability where I have to kind of explain the lack of like the lack of imagery that is usually spent on disability, the handicap sticker, the wheelchair image. Like, so there are other elements where being ambulatory and without any assistive devices, there I go through a kind of different question about how I'm legible as a disabled person. And so that's really it's exciting. To your point, it's a privilege to think about how to give people a different perspective on that, because I think that if you're the closer you are to a non-disabled, you know, image is like usually prioritized, but there are ways in which we should show like how disability isn't just about what we think it is, but it can be evolved and really, yeah, expansive.
This just reminds me how like there is so much space in the disability community to like be an influencer, have your voice, because like I'm learning things here, you know, we have very different experiences, but we're still technically in the same category, but we can always learn something from each other.
All right, Amy, you're wrapping up their final question here. So looking into the future, what is some advice for future people with disabilities that want to pursue influencing? What kind of words of encouragement do you have for them to start out?
I would say just do it. I know it's scary, but all of us on this panel started at zero. We all started super scared, not knowing what was going to happen. We've all probably gotten hate before, like we've all gotten it. And I would say, you know, now we're on a panel talking about it and we're all still learning from each other. Like there's so much room to grow. I would say find what you're passionate about and make videos and make content out of that if you want to do social media. I also have to say social media isn't for everyone. I mean, you know, I have a lot of people that are part of our mentorship program that are like, well, I want to do social media. And I'm like, why? You know, like get down to like why you want to do it. Don't do it because you want it to be your job. Do it because you actually are passionate about it. Because if you do it for the wrong reasons, you're going to fall off and waste your time. So figure out what you're passionate about and understand how, you know, social media can be really hard, but it also can be really, really fun, and get people around you that also want to do it too, because it just makes it that much more fun. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. I know we're short on time, but gonna build off of Chelsie, like to the point you just made, rather than thinking about, you know, wanting to be an influencer, thinking about like, what is it that you actually want to influence, right? The impact that you want to have on the world or your world. I think some other kind of tactical pieces. One, people with small followings can still have a big impact and can still get great partnerships. Nano influencers, right? That's the term, right? And so I have less than 5,000 followers, but my engagement is extremely high. And I think that's something that has kind of attracted some partnerships that I wouldn't expect to have gotten at all. I think the other piece to keep in mind is like, it takes a lot of time behind the scenes work, right? So building off of Chelsie, right? Chelsea's been, you know, working with her organization, doing that work for a decade, right? So people use the term like blowing up overnight a lot these days, but that's not really a thing. It just looks like that. And then I think the last piece for any type of freelance work, but especially social media, thinking about it as like a hobby or, you know, one of multiple streams of things that you're doing rather than, you know, doing it to try to make money, right? Like that's going to stress you out, especially at the beginning. You should be doing it just kind of for your passion. Yeah.
I'd say be surprised and work to surprise yourself. Yeah, be curious.
And be prepared for the hate, because if you want to do it, you got to be prepared for the hate too. Just have the confidence to be able to do it. Honestly, it's all about the confidence and exactly what you guys were saying, the putting in the work, figuring out exactly what you want to do, and just having fun with it. Honestly, just have fun with it.
Yes, and don't be afraid of failure, guys. I mean,
yes,
if you want to be successful, you're going to fail. You're going to fail not just once, not just twice. You're going to fail many, many times. But from each failure, you can learn something. You can learn how to do things better next time. You can learn, you know, about how to have fortitude and strength through times when you don't feel like you're making the progress you would like to. But also on some more tactical points, like Hillary said, when you're working with brands, don't underestimate your value. Okay. They can maybe try to treat you like you're not as like worthy to receive a certain amount of compensation because you use a disability. Don't let that fly. Respect your value and don't underestimate it. And also just like find your passion. Get your main niche for your passion and work off of that. It's better to niche down and start small and then build, because that's how you're going to attract a community. And you don't need to do like follow for follow or any sort of tricks to get a following. It's about building a community, friendship, genuine friendships with the people who are supporting you. And that is how you're going to have success.
Yeah, I would have said the same thing as Red. Be prepared for the heck, because it could come in waves, and sometimes it might be okay. Because sometimes your mental health will get a good hit, but it's okay to take breaks. Like I take breaks all the time because sometimes things can get too much, but you've got to do what's best for you, but not focus on the numbers too much. Really take a week off, Like you can always go back.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Great.
all.
It's super valuable. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.